So we talked a little bit about, I think I want to be an architect. How do I know? We discussed my individual experience kind of wrestling with that decision and my experience leading up to deciding to become an architect. We talked a little bit about the skill sets that are necessary to be an architect. What I'd also like to talk a little bit about is what the process looks like. I know when I made the decision that I wanted to become an architect, I didn't know any architects. I didn't know what the process looked like. I didn't know how long it would take. I didn't know how much money it would take. I didn't know anything, really. But I figured it all out on my own. And I think what's important to realize is that no matter what profession you want to go after, what dream you want to go after, you don't have to know the process 100%. You can figure it out along the way. But if this video helps one single future architect a little bit, just to figure out, making that decision, number one, and understanding what the process looks like, then I'll be very happy that I made this video for that one single person. So what does the process look like? It depends on the person. So for me, I went to an accredited undergraduate program at the University of Buffalo. They offered a Bachelor of Science degree in architecture. I didn't fully comprehend this at the time, but UB, and you should look at this, look at the program you're thinking about looking at very closely, but UB offers an accredited 4+2 program, at least they did at the time. And what that means is your path to becoming an architect has basically three components to it. There is your education, which is step one. There is your experience or your internship experience, which happens usually after your education experience, but sometimes it can happen simultaneous to it or partially simultaneous to your education. And then the third component is exams. And that kind of happens towards the end of your path. The entire time frame can take, in the shortest span of time, you could probably get it done in maybe 8 or 9 years if you were focused. My path had a lot of zigzags to it. So my path to licensure from the time I started studying architecture to the time I actually became licensed was about 16 years. And that's for various different reasons. I decided to teach for a while, and I took a lot of alternate paths to becoming an architect. So that's why I say it really depends on the person. But going back to the education part of this, I went to the University of Buffalo that offered the 4+2 accredited degree program. And that is a 4-year undergraduate degree, so it takes 4 years to get through it. You can sometimes get that done as soon as 3 or 3.5 years. At our program at the university, they offered a study abroad session during the summer of your junior year, and they offered a study abroad session during your senior year as well. So you could basically collapse that undergrad experience by doing extra summer sessions. But I took the entire full years to complete that program. Most people do. And then at the end of your undergraduate degree, I had the option of either continuing on at the University of Buffalo for my master's degree, which their master's degree was the 2 part of that equation. It was an additional 2 years to get your master's degree. But when you're done with your undergraduate degree, you can kind of decide what your next step is going to be. You can either, like me, stay where you studied your undergraduate degree if they offer that program, if they offer a master's degree program, or you can choose to go to a different college. I had other friends of mine that decided to move on to Ivy League schools like Harvard or Yale. And to be frank, UB made me an offer I could not refuse. They essentially paid for my schooling in as long as I went to UB for my master's degree. I had great success. I was very highly motivated when I went to UB for my undergraduate degree. So, you know, that really benefited me in the long run because they essentially covered my tuition to do my master's degree program there. But the important thing to remember from all of this is that UB offered an accredited degree program. I think if you're serious about becoming an architect someday, you really want to find a program that offers an accredited degree program, because the difference between accredited and unaccredited is that if you go to and I know many people who have gone to unaccredited degree programs, and ultimately I don't think any of the people that I know that have done that have ended up getting licensed. And the reason is because the accredited degree program sort of gives you sort of advanced standing in your education experience. There's this platform called NCARB, and NCARB keeps track of all of your internship experience, which happens right after. It's the second part of the three components that I was discussing. They kind of give special acknowledgement for people that come from an accredited degree program, so the experience time is less. So I would recommend that you find an accredited program to do your undergraduate degree program in and your master's, or find a program that offers a 4+2 or something like that. So before I move on to discussing the internship process a little bit, I just want to elaborate some of the options that you might see to become an architect on the education side before moving on here, because there's, like I said, there's many pathways there. Another option is, and I've worked with many people that have gone through this process too. So say you started your college career in something other than architecture. You went for, I don't know, business or accounting, or it doesn't matter what it is. But say you got a 2-year degree in that, or maybe even a 4-year degree. You went so far as to get a degree in something other than architecture, but a kind of light bulb went on and you're like, hey, I think architecture might be for me. Well, places like UB, they do offer a 3.5-year master's degree program, and people in that program often will have the prerequisite to get into that program is that you have a degree in something else. Some of the best architects that I know actually went through that program. And that's a good option for getting a path to licensure too. So you can go into a 3.5-year master's degree program, and ultimately after 3.5 years, you can get your master's degree. Now, I know it's a little frustrating because, you know, your time in school might be longer. You know, if you've already gotten a undergraduate degree and you went to school for 4 years, and then you're looking at another 3.5 years for a master's degree, you know, that's quite a lot of time. That's like 7.5 years of college. So I can understand that can be a little bit frustrating, but I can tell you some of the best architects that I know went through that program. And I think the reason that some of the best architects I know go through a program like that is because they have some life experience by the time they get into architecture. You know, they study something completely different than architecture. And I think that's also an important factor in becoming a great architect, is just having interests, a diversity of interests. Because I think interests or hobbies or anything other than architecture that you can bring into architecture makes you a better architect. I've seen it time and time again. So consider that.